I'm Patrick Hausen. I run FreeBSD for hosting services with my company, and I'm a serious home labber for my private amusement. I have lots of hardware at home and experiment with new technology. And I have a host running Sylvie, and I have been very active on the Discord where the development and feedback and testing happens. So this is my Sylvie system at home, and I have two VMs, one Windows 10 and one Windows 11. And I have just reload the screen because the graphs don't update quite frequently or reliably enough. Now, just watch the CPU usage here. Don't be confused by the graph. This is 1% is the top line. So having auto-scalable CPU usage graphs is a very, very bad idea. They should be nailed down at 100% at the top because it's absolutely useless. I don't need to know if it's 1 or 1.5% or 2 or something. OpenSense does the same. It's stupid. Sorry. And okay, so this is a Windows 10 VM. It's booted. It's just idling around and waiting for remote desktop connection, which is how I use virtualized Windows. And now the very same thing, same hardware parameters, 2 cores, 4 gigabytes of RAM. Only difference is we have an emulated TPM module here in the Windows 11 VM that doesn't show up in the UI yet. Yep, that option is only available at creation. And the CPU usage is around 30-ish, oscillating from 10 to 40, 24/7. It's never really idle, and I have no idea what the operating system is doing. The Windows guest thinks it's idling at around 10% across all cores, sometimes less, and the Beehive process can show you the top. So you see 2 Beehive processes. Now guess which is which. Yeah.
One is Windows.
Both are Windows. One is Windows 10 and one is Windows 11. And apart from that, absolutely identical. So
Windows 11 is 200%.
Yep. Doing nothing. So we need to find out why somehow.
But I'm not sure if that's a Beehive problem. I've seen similar behavior from Windows 11 on KVM as well. Because the VM was completely fine. Then it was upgraded from Windows 10 to Windows 11, and then it was stuck at 100% CPU usage.
Right. So for the people in the audience who don't run Windows at all and are not very much interested in this, Microsoft introduced a very, very clever feature with Windows 11. When you boot Windows 11 on your brand new machine with all these requirements, TPM and certain CPU extensions, it doesn't really boot Windows. It boots the Hyper-V hypervisor and then runs your desktop Windows inside that hypervisor. So the hypervisor can provide certain memory protection features that are not available on a bare metal system. And that's the true reason why Windows 11 has such huge requirements for new hardware compared to Windows 10. It's all about that memory protection stuff. I don't know what it's doing.
That's a good point. Did I see an Austrian hand Kiwi back?
On KVM, on Proxmox, at home it runs. I need to switch on nested virtualization, and it's slow as molasses. Beehive is with Beehive is much faster. This installation here, but
Features are kind of optional if you don't do asset visualization.
So just for the protocol, we need to dive deeper into this after the conference. And then a short update for those who didn't get the memo. IX Systems pulled the rug under FreeBSD-based TrueNAS. They released TrueNAS Core 13.3. This is the last edition we will ever see from them. It runs on a FreeBSD 13.3 kernel. And that's that. You can, up to today, run FreeBSD 13.5 jails on top of a 13.3 kernel, and keep my fingers crossed. Need to talk to Colin about that. As long as we don't have incompatible ABI changes inside the Relang/13 train, you will be able to update to 13.6, and maybe that will be the last release we will see. There will definitely be no TrueNAS Core with FreeBSD 14, 15, or anything going on. They're gone 100% Linux. And there is a community fork that started in late 2024 called zvault. So let's go to the code here. So starting page, and the problem is I have no clue who is behind this. I really don't know the people. I have an email address and that's all. And the guy goes by the name JT, and I have no idea what name is behind that. And they act through a zvault account on GitHub. This is this zvault IO up there. And that's it. And they say they need their secrecy because they fear that IX Systems will sue them and whatever. So they posted a release of zvault in February, and then they got a friendly letter without the lawyers and everything, just a friendly letter from Chris Moore, the CTO of IX Systems, that there were still IX Systems copyrighted files in there, and please remove them, which they did, and then they issued a second release, I think in May. Yeah. Well, it runs. It's TrueNAS Core. It's okay. But communication is awkward. The community discussion and communication takes place in GitHub issues, abused as a forum, whatever. And now they started to post in, wait a minute, not the README. Where's the, why don't I see this at the moment? Where's the source tree?
You have to change the branch.
Yes, thank you very much. They posted this on main, of course. I overlooked that. So here's this post directory, and here's a message from July to the community, what they achieved so far. So they switched the repo from IX Systems forked FreeBSD source tree to upstream FreeBSD, fixed boot creation, update to ZFS, update to the bootloader, etc. But there is no roadmap or anything. Sorry, so I can't say anymore. That's the current state of affairs, and we'll see if Sylvie is going to overtake them on the fast lane or not, or carry us. Well, who'll be first to get production ready? Thank you.
So, on the topic of just that Windows performance weirdness stuff we're seeing across the board, if one had a whole bunch of caffeine and a machine, would they jump to dtrace? Would they watch just in Beehive CTL, count the exits, or perhaps Hans, any thoughts, any ideas? Jan, who has a mic up here? Someone, I don't know. Oh, yes, thank you, Albert.
I would like to prepare this tomorrow. And then Hans or Jan, we can have a look why I'm not able to install it. Windows 11, standard installation.
Without NVMe during installation? What's your storage device model?
I have no idea. I have to look in it. I tried it 2 months ago.
Okay.
I will see. Then I will come to you. Maybe Hans, I first check with him.
That's operating. I can help with that.
Okay. No, then, okay, perfect. No, I will contact you tomorrow and we have a look at it. Perfect. Thank you very much.
Sure, and I'm happy to show you my Auto Unattend XML installation where it's just a 2-step process and it's all automated, and I never want to see an installer again in my life. Did I say that out loud? So
This is the only somewhat bearable method of installing Windows.
by not seeing anything, it's great. So
This is very simple to be installed.
any topics before we dive into software networking, the good, the bad, and the ugly?
How about the question for you?
Yes, please. In stereo, I like it.
Well, yeah. If you give me another one, I can play the drums.
Does Windows 11 require TPM these days? And if yes, does Beehive support software TPM? Yes, cool. It's not in vain
The
that
answer is yes.
yeah.
Pass-through and software emulation.
As somebody who ported software TPM, I'm really glad it's put into good use.
Do you prefer beer or caffeine or whiskey or Rocky here? And yeah, talk to this guy.
And I can say cocaine, right?
And there are plenty of appropriate Deadpool quotations for that, but they can also wait for the evening afters. So, on the broad topic of software networking, did we call it software network performance? What would we consider our greatest pain point on FreeBSD? Everything on Illumos seems to work great, and it's embarrassing. You have warm towels and handy mint on your pillow, and so, Jan, did you bring this topic up? I'll bet.
So, as probably most of you have found out, the virio net implementation of Beehive in FreeBSD is not that fast. 1 gig is not a problem. A few gigs, okay. 10 gigs, and you're pushing it, unless you have very high clock rates on a low core count CPU. And beyond that, it just isn't usable with normal MTUs, that is. And you're either forced to get SIOV working, which means you will never do hard live migration and stuff like that, or we need some better implementation of software bridging and the device model for the power virtualized network card.
What you solved it on OpenBSD is so I'm not using FreeBSD, but I'm using OpenBSD on Linux. So the OpenBSD hypervisor is really slow. We don't talk about that. But we have tried to optimize the client part of the OpenBSD stack by doing VirtIO mostly compatible with the Linux, and there get above 50 gigabit, 55 gigabit throughput TCP. The things we do there is we do multi-queuing, we do checksum offloading, and
Yep.
we do TCP segmentation offloading.
Of course.
And with that's the number I get on a 12-core AMD machine, and I have 4 cores for the OpenBSD guest and 4 cores for the Linux guest.
So FreeBSD can reach similar numbers as a guest because the guest driver is there. But the host side of Beehive, inside the implementation of the virio net power virtualized device emulation, that is what we took the shortcut of having a single queue device with no batching and no TSO LRO support. And if you really want to torture your system, you can take 4 of them and put them in a link aggregate. And I've tried it. Yes, it works. Then you burn 4 CPUs doing lots of context switches.
Jan, are we talking about throughput between Beehive VMs on a single host? Does it affect single host, or if it pushes to another host?
Both of them are a problem. The solutions may be a bit different because you can optimize for one or the other. Right now, we're not really optimizing for either. The fix to your performance problem is the easy one in production these days is get proper hardware, use single root I/O virtualization, and pass through virtual functions. Then performance is great. But the problem is that the way the configuration of single root I/O virtualization works on FreeBSD with the IOVCTL tool, every time you change anything, you reconfigure the whole physical card. So you must stop all guests on jails using it or whatever you're using your virtual functions for, because they will all be destroyed and recreated every time you change something. So if you want to say this virtual machine must only use these VLANs and this MAC address, and you want to change that, at runtime you have to stop all other virtual machines on the host, basically reboot the host, which makes this unacceptable for certain production users who need this level of enforcement by the hypervisor.
I think that happened to me. Does it apply when you change the IP address of the host? Means all the VMs become inaccessible.
No, that shouldn't happen. It's if you want to add a another paravirtualized device, change the number of queues on a device, change the required MAC address of a paravirtualized device, set whether or not the virtual machine is allowed to configure the NIC to be promiscuous and stuff like this.
And
These settings you do via the IOVCTL command. And that always completely reconfigures the device as it's currently implemented.
and NetGraph doesn't solve this. This NetGraph implementation of network.
Oh, a NetGraph is another way you can. So our virt.io net device emulation inside the user space Beehive component has different backends. One of them is NetGraph. It has some advantages over the tab or VMnet pseudo devices. There's also the option of using other backends. I think you can, at least in current now, use a NG device as well, because that's very similar from the behavior to a tab device, just that it does not go to the normal network stuff, but to NetGraph. And the problem here is that there is no multi-queue support, no batching. Basically, we do a VM exit for every packet, copy it over via memcopy between two ring buffers, and then return back, go back into the guest. Think of it as using an NE2000.
Antonig asks, are you talking about SRIOV and all of that?
I just did
Yes.
before
Yes,
that
Antonig.
the hardware fix.
Yeah.
But again, with the SRIOV being not effectively runtime configurable, it is only an option when you don't need the hypervisor to police the network traffic.
It also has some downsides because you then need to do things like LSCP in the VM if you have failover and some other problems.
Yes, I would say because then you also have to pin the memory of the guest. Because otherwise you can't have pass-through devices. So yeah, there are trade-offs there.
Oh, and sometimes you run into firmware marks in the network cards.
Okay,
Go ahead,
then you
repeat
have
his
the
comments.
network
That's
card or driver that's not inherent in the technology.
Good news, everyone. Wasn't me. I suspect it's someone in the audience. Tell us more about performance of Windows 11. As everyone gravitates towards one person. Oh, wait, no. Oh, clearly that's Antranig, eh? Do you want to join the Zoom call? We could do Zoom again. How about that? Anyone is welcome to join the standard Beehive Zoom call. We've got, I guess, Ian hanging out. Really? Okay, we'll see where this takes us. No one's owning good news, everyone. Performance using Windows 11 on an N150 and Beehive is actually fine. Well, performance or overhead?
Does that performance is okay? It's just idles at 30%.
Idles it? Well, okay, so that's the overhead of idling at 30%.
Pro that.
Well, yeah.
What happens when you set the hypervisor string to KDM, KBM, KBM?
I can't do that in Sylvie, so I have to try it.
On the host, you could read the Beehive, of course, because she does.
I was wrong about that one. Actually, you can set arbitrary parameters for the beehive in Sylvie because Sylvie relies on libvirt, and you can use var_sh edit virtual machine number and edit the XML and then fire it up in the UI, and the UI won't interfere with it unless, of course, you do configuration changes. So we could try that.
Well, you've got about 50 more minutes to try that. Other fun topics. Yes, Hans. Come here.
Sorry, here. Yeah. So, can you hear me? Regarding that Windows issue with the 30% idle usage, one thing that could be related is time counters. A couple of years ago, we were talking about implementing KVM compatible or Hyper-V compatible time counter support specifically for the benefit of Windows, because that way we can get rid of a lot of VM exits. So in case of that 30% thing, I think the most sensible approach would be to, well, fire up dtrace and figure out what is the beehive process actually doing, what's Windows making it do, what was the reason for the VM exits, and then maybe we can point the finger to the right place. And regarding that other subject, virtual network performance, if you want to hear it, I can try to explain a bit what Illumis does,
Please.
as I've started before. So the basic idea of word.io net is, as with any word.io, you have the word queues for a communication between the driver in the VM and the device on a host, which is the beehive user space process usually. And this is just, if you think about it, a bit of shared memory. The VM sees it as a PCI bar, and the guest knows where guest memory is. The host process knows where the guest memory is and can just read it and write it there. As I said, I've personally never worked with Viona. I haven't even looked at the code at any time, so I may be talking out of my ass here, sorry. Take this with a big grain of salt. The way I understand this is working is that the user space part is basically talking to the Viona driver and telling it where the word queues are, and maybe waking it up every once in a while, and the Viona driver is shuffling the packets around without leaving the kernel. It may actually be much more complicated than that, but I figure it's something that happens directly between the network stack and the guest state in the kernel, so we don't have the overhead of leaving or copying stuff around too much. While I don't think Viona can be ported, or maybe it can, but it's probably not very useful because it's really tied very closely to the Illumis network stack, I think something like that could be done for FreeBSD by someone who knows the network stack very well.
You heard the comparable infrastructure. This
Microphone.
Oh. So
That's a good
FreeBSD's net map is the closest equivalent. It doesn't do all of what the fancy abstractions in the Solaris Illumos network stack can do. We don't have this data link layer, general driver interface. We don't have Crossbow and Fire Engine and so on in between. But NetMap exists. It's a mechanism how you can quickly shuffle batches of packets in multi-queue capable devices through the kernel or through user space. And the problem is right now we have a NetMap backend for the vid.io net, but it's still doing one packet at a time over a single queue. So it's basically not much faster than TAP.
Well, in the end, I guess it's someone who knows NetMap can dig into that and optimize the hell out of it. That's what I would
Yes,
suggest.
you would kind of have to pin the memory regions containing the queues so that they're unswappable. And then the kernel could
Just a question, is guest memory swappable on FreeBSD?
That depends. It's configurable. So you can have wired memory, so then it's not swappable, or you can have not wired memory, then guest memory is swappable.
I think we don't do swapping or paging of guest memory at all in Illumos land. We also don't do memory overcommit, so...
For guests.
Well, not at all, because the general idea on Illumas is, or in Sunland back in the day, was that memory overcommit is just lying and causing failures that pop up randomly in places where you don't know how. So just don't do it. Build your machine big enough. You're done with it. And I guess memory is cheap these days. So
You can configure FreeBSD almost like
yeah, that's sure.
and
Just in general, I guess that makes a lot of problems go away on Illumis, or just not even appear, that you can have in other systems. But yeah, I guess maybe there's a use case for overcommit that I just don't see.
So the normal argument for overcommit is that if a big process does something like fork an exec, if you don't overcommit, at the moment you fork, you have to now allocate all the physical backing space for it. So let's say you have your 30 gigabyte Java process, it forks, and then you need 30 gigabytes of memory now before you can return from fork, only for it to exec into a shell.
But well, there's refork, and I'm pretty sure there are modern POSIX system calls,
They'll
POSIX
puzzle
call them
spawn
that
to avoid that if it's
to avoid it. Well, just, I mean, even refork should exist on FreeBSD.
Oh, it does.
I guess it should. I don't know whether it does. I know that some operating systems have done away with it. I think Linux did at some time. I don't know.
So they brought it back against lots of objections. I think they both map to the same low levels. The fork and the vfork map to the second level function in the end. From Linux, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it all maps to clone.
Yeah, in the end, I mean, you can do fancy stuff in the memory system, so that this is the problem. That you just have to do it.
Oh, Illumos folks, there's a question. Do you have 9PFS support, be it client or server?
I have seen subcommits when I looked at it yesterday that said something about 9P, but I have no idea. I've never tested it. I don't know whether it's client or server. And
Depends which front end. I see Propolis has it.
Oh, interesting. Propolis has it.
Beehive host does something. We can do something, but we are missing our guest driver, so we cannot mount it.
but we can give it to guests.
Yeah, and I was at some point talking to a guy from the mount people, so we can somehow do it. I think the limitation was we couldn't mount it as root. But we can mount something like a config file in there.
Which, thank you, Doug Repson. There is some basic support for FreeBSD, which is kind of cool. It's like not quite a POSIX file system, bless you. Neither is NFS. Yes, you can probably reach further back till.
Thank you. Regarding the Podman session, where we weren't able to ask questions.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's a great observation.
Is there some?
As our pod person is working on slides or something, but it sounds like we might have pod person questions.
Yeah.
We would love you to. And here's a microphone that Hans is desperately trying to offload.
I'm just already into some who didn't want to ask, which is fine.
All right. What?
Okay. First, thank you. It's really cool to have something like Docker. On FreeBSD 3 weeks ago, I was using Podman on a ARM64 system. And I used it to install the Selenium, Firefox, and Chromium images for testing. Worked perfect, and now it's gone.
What is gone?
The Podman. If you do a PKG search, Podman on ARM64, it's not finding anything.
Should we have a look?
On AMD64, Podman is still available. It seems if I'm doing build from ports, it seems that some GoLint package is not supporting ARM64 anymore. Or so I'm asking, is it coming back?
I'm sure it is because I use it. So
Okay.
so
It's like, why are you sure he's trying to use it?
yeah. Let me just have a look.
Because I also have to say I am nearly completely switched to ARM because it's so stressless. somehow.
It's all-
I still have some AMD 64 machines, but just for testing this platform, this builds.
I can tell you if it's going to come back in the near future. Just looking in the future.
Yeah, so I was doing some Beehive on ARM testing, and I thought I'll try tmux and the required U-boot, and they weren't there, but they're being like built, and they'll be built when they're built. And wait,
Okay, another question: if I have the Beehive ARM,
So has it? Yes, they're coming back. I have them here. There
woohoo!
we go.
There, they're coming back.
yeah, okay, I just wait. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
And not related to Podman, but Beehive on ARM 64. Is it possible? Because now for my ARM 64 builds, I use Mac OS on a Mac Studio. Can I install
Yep,
FreeBSD
yeah.
on a Mac
So
Studio?
I use this stuff like every day. So,
Oh, perfect. So
it worked. Oh, sorry. I use that stuff every day, so it works.
Okay.
I just tested it this morning. No, yesterday.
is
On
there's
15.0 Alpha 3.
perfect.
And it works.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So you need an M3 to get nested virtualization in QEMU, but then you can even use Beehive inside of UTM.
Kind of cool. Yeah, and it's fast.
Yeah, I would prefer running a FreeBSD directly on a Mac, on a ARM Mac. That would be really perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I was going to say you should run FreeBSD.
FreeBSD on routers, but if I need, thank you.
M1, M2, M3. There, 1, 2. Yeah.
Well, we do that. Sweet. You know, we have to use the USD.
You have graphic acceleration, you have graphics.
Then we use Patanox.
Well, I think we fixed it in Hangouton.
Not a slip connection. Yes, Micah.
So, let me ask the unpopular question, and just informative about how far are we from running Kubernetes on FreeBSD? Oh, and I know
I'm dodging that one. I have no idea.
the reason I'm asking, I know there's a lot of work put into it. I just don't know where we are.
Yeah. So, rumor has it that Doug has this running in his home lab, which I sort of imagine this vaguely Google Borg-sized infrastructure, sitting under a desk, probably with a cat on top. But I believe he's been working on this, but I don't know what state it's in. And yeah, I would like to know too. Maybe actually, no, I don't want to know about Kubernetes. I think that's not the solution I have in mind. Yeah.
Too late. The Kubernetes Illumos port runs on FreeBSD as well. Tom Norlin was porting it to both systems. It is API plain only, so no kubelet. So it does not run the payloads, but it runs your API.
Yeah, so the tooling is here to use it to control a cluster that
Oh,
is
to
not
be a
run-
cluster.
Really? Okay.
That's the cluster backend services. The only thing that it doesn't have is the one that starts jails and zones.
Right. Okay.
So we now have Podman, which I think is supported by Kubernetes as a runner. So in theory, you could plug it together, but you can also use Nomad and Pod to get something very similar.
Yeah, that's true.
If you want that kind of thing.
You still need a cluster network interface plugin.
Luckily, that's the CNI and not the cluster storage interface. So, which means that it's a lot easier to do because it's a simple line-based ASCII protocol you can implement in shell. The CNI provider can be a 200-line shell script to do what needs doing, whatever. Maybe just something shorter if you just want to give it an IP address and put it on as an alias IP on some thing, and then you even get great networking performance if you use alias type networking. In jails, if you use VNet enabled jails, you even need non-pass-through non-pass-through SR IOV devices, so you can just go into your IOV CTL configuration, say pass-through equals false, then you see the actual devices and can assign them to VNet-enabled jails, like you would the pass-through devices assigned to a BF guest. Yeah, that's possible, or you have to go the slow route, which is bridge and ePass.
I have a question for Podman. In its default form, does it have the same like Docker network capabilities for the jails? And if yes, how do you implement it?
Yeah, so on FreeBSD, what we use is VNet jails. So each jail has its own virtualized networking stack, firewall, and so forth. And in between the VNet jails and the world is a bridge, and you can create multiple bridges if you want to isolate, say, 3 different customers on their own. Sort of, you'd have 3 VNets here. So there are 3 servers for each customer. So another 3 here and another 3 there, and then 1 bridge here, 1 bridge here, and 1 bridge here, and they would be their own little networks. So that's how it's currently implemented. I would like one where I can do sort of direct pass through, and what I found is that this is sort of possible, but there's no definition in the sort of container networking spec for this thing yet. People have asked for it on Linux, and I think when that moves a bit further along, probably we will want to copy paste it. Kind of what I want is to take the networking that I have in FreeBSD and then say to the container, and use this. It's good. I know it. Yeah.
I just wanted to add a small thing to Dave's explanation. You can, of course, have multiple interfaces to connect it to multiple bridges in a single VNet jail. So you can also build routing and NAT and firewalling, filtering, whatever infrastructures and topologies
Yes.
built on top of VNet and on top of jails.
Yeah. So you make a great point, which is you can do all sorts of dastardly, tricky things. Podman has hooks, and the hooks correspond exactly to the jail created phase that we would normally have in a jail startup script, a native FreeBSD jail. And I've used these hooks to pull in a WireGuard interface into the container, and to pull in ZFS data sets, things like this. So all of that stuff is possible.
So I have an understanding question. You showed an example file for the container, which you installed a package and later deleted the package hash, but in a different layer. And my understanding is that the layers are immediate container images, and then the you cannot change them in a
I understand. I
layer.
understand what you're saying. Yeah. So when the containers are built, the final layer is the bit that we will publish, and the other bits just disappear.
Okay.
So each step is those people don't match up. That is not Ian Evans, troublemaker in chief. Yeah.
Oh, it doesn't want to interrupt you.
Yeah. So what you typically do is every stage in the Podman build script is a separate jail, and as you say, we have that layer then with the wasted space. But in the final piece, it'll tar everything up, create a new layer, and that's the final piece that we have. So we shouldn't lose it.
Okay, so it's because in Docker this is not possible. If you want to really delete something and make the image smaller, you have to delete it in the layer you're creating. This
Yeah, I might need to.
Docker as well of the with
Yeah, okay, that's
I'd have to go back and look at my notes to see whether I have to do an explicit squash step,
yeah, okay.
or not. Yeah.
Okay, Andrea, let her rip.
sorry. Let him.
He's lurking. Is he joining?
if you
He is muted. Yeah. Well, he didn't want to interrupt Uncle BC8. First, wait. I mean, oh, that's to unmute.
Oh well. In the meantime,
Hi. How are you?
Was I gonna talk about? Oh yeah, right, the networking. The long story short, or maybe I should use to YouTube because I'm just not hearing my pages for that.
Yes, you should make.
It was the story short was about the Docker networking is that I was moving a customer from Docker stuff to non-Docker stuff. From managed Docker nonetheless on AWS to basically jails. And we saw multiple levels of performance gain. One of them was on the file system level because there's no more overlay FS headache. The second one was on the networking side because they were doing a lot of backend calls into multiple microservices and having a 10 gigabit Ethernet adapter slash driver such as ePair was very handy. And the last category was that developers seem to be happier with the GLSM. By the way, I can't hear you due to echo. You can type in the chat when we want you to stop.
You can probably hear.
Amazing thing that we also noticed is less CPU usage when it comes to the hertz you're using your CPU. To be fair, I don't know how managed Docker works on AWS because that's kind of like their secret recipe. But in this case, we were deploying on a fat bare metal, right? So to add on Patrick's point, we can also have in this case multiple interfaces with multiple pairs, and then you attach on top of that something like VXN, and you can run a mesh of networks. Which doing that on the Kubernetes land or the Docker land requires a whole black magic of CNI adapters and tools. So, I mean, based off my experience in the last 3 months of with a customer, turns out that, and the developers couldn't kill us. Like, that they don't care about Docker. Keep telling me they care about Docker. As soon as we move them off of Docker, they don't care about Docker. They're like, oh, okay, I can run my Python script. Thank you very much. So, that's when it comes to like burn off compared to Twitter. So,
How about now?
Yes, Mac.
Dave, did I get it right that Docker and FreeBSD is actually package base? Inside the Docker, I mean.
Oh, so the containers for 15 are built with package base, and the containers for 14 are probably also built. Actually, I'm just trying to think. I'm not sure off the top of my head. Yeah, by default, we're using package sets for this. Yeah. For 14.3, it must be base images, and we remove files, I think. I can just have a look. So the question earlier was, do we need to squash the layers? And the final build stage, I should have a squash flag added to it to do that. But I don't see a step to do that in the container file directly.
Yeah. Embracing the silence. Think about lightning round items. What would you like to see a report on at next year's VHiveCon, where it's like, oh my gosh, we got that new thing. We've all wanted, yay. Short of faster networking.
Well, while holding the mic and
Yeah, you.
holding monopoly over it, I would really love to see the GPU sharing. I personally have wished to use it, but it's not job related, so probably it's not gonna be something that I'm gonna deal a lot with. But I think it would be great to have some less reason to restart into Windows.
Is that one and the same with SRIOV GPU support, or it's something else?
To my understanding, it is something else.
Ooh. Okay.
Uh,
If you've got links, please share them.
Well, not right now. I remember reading that KVM supports it, and that you can.
Well, it boils down to having a GPU working on your Beehive, ideally, and your host, so you don't have to choose which one.
I recall Intel having this whole letter soup of G, TV, GB, with some of those being okay.
Sorry, that's the general purpose GPU, if I'm right, which means that you can run some tasks on the GPU like similarly what we use for the AI currently, but take it with a huge grain of salt because I haven't read about it in ages.
Okay.
Okay, so just from my want list, one general, one more specific. General, yeah, just hopefully a good successor to Trona's core, and ideally with really good Beehive VM and Jails management, including some virtual networking stuff. That would be my main wish list point. And the other one, which goes a bit back to the PCI pass through in the morning, I want my Intel Arc support. I need my Media Engine AV1 encoder, hopefully everywhere. So yeah, that's I'm really stoked for what's happening.
Which exposure? What exposure?
The Intel's Media Engine AV1 encoder. That's something I want to use more extensively in the future, and it would be great to use it from virtualized clients. So.
Have. Okay, who has funding anonymously here? Jules, that's
No, AVX. AV1, the video codec.
oh. News to me. We're full circle to secret and anonymous. We'll see. No, it's like, haha, psych. Okay, who's got some money? Come on, yes, sir. We've got money.
I will second the Truna's core thing, because it has been a gateway drug, and we need as many gateway drugs as possible for FreeBSD. A thing we haven't touched on yet, because I think we are talking bleeding edge, but documentation. How about documentation and Beehive? Are you the holder of that? Oh,
Shake your head very quickly.
so do we have any thoughts on documentation?
I have lots of thoughts on documentation. It is a gateway drug to becoming a committer, and it is really easy to start. It's really easy to start. You start trying to make something work, and then you fail, and then you write some notes on it. First, it becomes a blog post, and then it becomes part of the handbook, and then it becomes a man page, and then you have, I think it's Fame and Profit is the next page. I think that's correct. Open source Fame and Profit. Yeah, but I highly recommend if you find something is missing, don't just write a blog post. Have a crack at adding it to the documentation. Paradoxically, it's much easier to add something to the handbook because it's just HTML, and it doesn't go in a release. So if it's missing, it can be added and it can be updated very quickly. I think the hard part in truth is finding someone who can review it, and someone who can review it and add it. Yeah, it's exactly. If only someone had written a blog post about that.
It's a final blog post.
It's a final blog post. Yeah.
The final blog post.
And I think if you've come to one of these conferences, you can leave this conference knowing and finding people who will help you get that documentation across the line. And if you can't find anyone for FreeBSD, you can ask me and I will try and coerce someone into helping. Yeah.
Show of hands. For those in FreeBSD land, the OpenZFS handbook page. It's an introduction, or it's a comprehensive enterprise deployment guide needed for full enterprise use. And it came up that, oh, it's woefully out of date. It's painfully out of date. And I point out some little issues there. And then it's like, wait a minute, this should be all the things. And yes, Patrick, what is the correct answer on what the heck we do with a topic like that?
I have no idea. I just wanted to elaborate quickly on the out of date remark that you made. It's not only out of date, it's dangerously contradicting current best practices. Specifically, it's not adhering to the layout our own installer produces. And we have 2025. ZFS-based root install is the default for FreeBSD, and the handbook should document what the installer does and why it does it, and how you handle replacing a disk with a partition table layout that the installer creates, because that is what all users, new and old ones, will face. OpenSense installs to ZFS by default, just saying.
Was it you who pointed out that a pfSense user logically went to the handbook page and tried to replace a disk, and it's like, let's help you destroy your data? It's like,
Not that bad, but close.
we're not streaming, are we?
Well,
Go ahead, Jan.
not like to help you destroy your data, it's that help you test your backup.
And nobody wants backup, everyone wants restore.
Nobody wants backup. I don't.
Joking aside, the problem is that the documentation in the handbook was written at a time when the ZFS installation instruction was spread across 3 wiki pages. And the idea was that you could just DD the installer at the magic offset in your devices. Because there's like an 8 megabyte reserved space in the pool layout, and that's enough place to put the loader in, and then you can put the MBR in front, kind of boot code, and yes, you can actually boot like that. And if you do a zpool expansion with RAID Z on such a device, your bootloader will be overwritten because ZFS repurposed this space nobody has used in basically all of the ZFS history, supposedly. If you want to read this installation instruction, the dangerous type, you have to look it up in the Wayback Machine because it's no longer really visible in the wiki. And yeah, but the long-term consequences of that manifest in the handbook. It still recommends, as far as I know, to put your pool on an unformatted disk. So the next time you take your pool and boot your workstation into Windows or to attach your external device to it, Windows will offer to format that uninitialized drive for you.
What could possibly go wrong? So I think this illustrates the 3 really good points. The handbook is out of date. We have 2 people who know what needs to be replaced. And you have 3 days.
We had 3 days. 3 days.
Why did I admit to knowing anything?
Seriously, does this explain 1 point?
1 point. Benedict went to quickly correct the most urgent mistakes and mention partitions instead of raw disks and stuff.
Yeah.
And I suggested contributing, and then the discussion started if this ZFS handbook section that is titled Starting with ZFS or Discovering ZFS or something should really cover production operation of ZFS root-based systems, or just discovering ZFS if you have a new disk to toy with and install ZFS on it. And here we are. That decision has to be made before we put serious work into it. Apart from that, Michael already went ahead and put together a rough draft of the information that should be in there. So we need to decide what the handbook should cover and in which structure it should do that.
Did Benedict use disk labels or proper modern-ish device name? Yeah, well, labels are a very good approach for various reasons.
So I think it's a good idea to give people a handbook chapter or section on learning about ZFS, kind of exploring ZFS, but we need the other one far more dearly.
And do we discuss recovering pools? I mean, how far do we take this? And is this a ZFS project problem, which I hear there's a summit coming up?
the pragmatic approach would be to think about how much can we accomplish with limited resources and short time, and ideally we would cover the stuff that is unique and special to FreeBSD. So our zpool layout that comes in the installer, for example, how you manage partitions in FreeBSD, and then most of the other stuff, if people want to contribute it, it would be ideal in the main ZFS documentation, OpenZFS, because it would be applicable to all systems. Yeah, but that's just
Question: did I make a terrible mistake by creating the first pool from G labels? What?
no,
G labels.
not catastrophic.
So you just put G label on this? Yes. And then wait, so your data is not powerful enough. The problem is that if you take your G label disk, only FreeBSD knows about G label. So if Windows sees it, it thinks there's no partition for it. I know on books, neither master boot for a GPT partition table. So it will think it's an unaddressed disk, and both Windows and Mac OS will offer to do the initial format for you. And there will, of course, the important metadata at the beginning of your disk. And then if you start using it, your pool will be destroyed within seconds. Because back in the day, I was doing it by the handbook, which was directly from their device, like, what was it? ADA00. Yeah, ADA, I remember. Most of the So what I did at one point, my disk got out. I rebooted the server, and then all those DAs got mixed. So then that's us. Oh, G labels. What is the better way to do it than with G labels? So ZFS doesn't care. It will drop disks and find ZFS labels inside of them and specific offsets, and it will find them. It drops the disk and sees if it can assemble a complete pool or a graded pool at least from it, or it only sees the remains of a pool. And if you on this sort of a pool is not enough to pull the pool up.
They have nice things. A lot of them.
Only on FreeBSD, always it's okay to
Toast just since. Toasty.
So how big is it?
Portable, a GPT label is a bit more because that's a bit more portable. If you at some point have to import this on Linux or macOS or whatever, the proper way to do it would be to on new disks type gpod dash d dash type for signature installieren gmod dash t vfs alignment.
This is true, but the partitioning and weird.
No longer want to use raw disks for that. If that's we want to partition it with G. We never did. So we used to buy a deep bus. This is their diary about us. The problem is, Solaris back when this was written, needed the disk write cache to be disabled for URLs. For reason. So if you have partition table, Solaris disable the write cache of a disk which from a ZFS performance massively because ZFS is able to use a disk to provide cache. So how to create a pool? Solaris back then was
Should we give him a microphone? And just
then you make a full fairness. Otherwise, you disk byte caches to say.
This man has no microphone, but it's all good.
I don't have a question. I was working on a bug with a ZFSD that it didn't bring the disks back into the pool when they are replaced. I read so many things, went through the GM. The what is what?
It's the voice of God. All right.
It wasn't me, it was you.
It wasn't me. Oh, that was over. Hello, dumpster. Yes. Hello.
It goes to the machine. Yeah.
So the problem is that if you replace the drive in JBOD, it will not be replaced actually. Reading about GMs, DevD, and God knows what else, I found out that DevD is not gonna issue the event every time. The reason I'm suspecting, I'm guessing about this, is because it uses select, not some other polling event registration. And in every operating system, standard input, output, and error have the lowest numbered file descriptors, and they're gonna mingle with the devd. Now, if you run devd-n, it's gonna demonize right away, and your problems go away. It's weird, but it works. And what I wanted to work on is write a replacement, not a replacement, write the instead of using select, using KQ for the devd, but that's not an option because not all devices support KQ. So in the future, I suppose devd should use something other than, well, KQ and select. What else is there? Probably polling.
There's no reason for devd to use something better than select because it's not dealing with a large number of devices or file descriptors. It's basically standard in-out error, source log, and the character device. So what it is doing is it's reading from the devctl device, which is a device which can only be opened once on the whole system. And then it reads lines of hot plug notifications from the kernel, matches that against its configuration, and runs something normally or ignores the event.
I don't have explanation why that works. I just know it does. So, I mean, we have that problem in production, and obviously.
Okay.
Well, final thoughts as we wrap up the 10th BeehiveCon. Thank you so much for just the sheer energy. Go ahead, final thoughts.
Well, like you've been today, are you the facilitator of different stuff? Because then you could be the facilitator of the documentation. It's sparse, I can hear, like it is with
Like
PSD
you're
in general.
gesturing, you're asking if I do documentation?
No.
Well,
Just facilitate the connection between people that'll.
so there's a running
Oh, do you have a no? Yeah.
there's a running joke on the calls. Save it for the software-defined networking call. Save it for the documentation call. Save it for the KQ versus devd call. None of which exist, but yes, in the next lifetime, we will set another 3 days per week to get to these topics.
Uh-oh.
Because he only has 24 hours username.
Onesie.
I like
Yes,
one final word as far as I'm concerned. Please give a big round of applause to Michael, the facilitator. Our chief organizer, and who will probably regret being a people person for the rest of his life. Thank you so very much.
I was the most shy person on the planet, if you can believe it. Well, let's break it into completely informal. We can finish up the stream. We can clean up what we have to clean up. And we'll just meet in front and decide if we cross the way to the dinner there. Serious thank you for all of the passion and the folks like Alexei behind a certain Eastern Bloc who is putting his heart into this. And all these people coming together after all these years of so much potential. And it's just been an absolute honor, and keep up the good work, everyone, because it's every one of you who has some story to bring to the table especially if you're with OpenBSD or Illumos or all these other OSs. And yeah, silos aren't helpful. Monocultures aren't helpful. Thank you, Stefano. I'll just pick on you. You've been quiet all day, but you recently, out of the blue, came up with Illumos Cafe to go with BSD Cafe because, well, they're not our enemies, that's for sure. They're a delight to work with. They have the aforementioned warm towels and mint on your pillow and all the cool things and crossbow, which is not there to like shoot you through the head with a bolt. But yeah, thank you all. It's just such a pleasure to work with all of you. And thank you, Stream. Thank you, Anchenig. If you really were to play it, you could unmute and have a final last word, such as your favorite phrase you like us to use on the calls. This is where Anchenig says like and subscribe. Thank you, everyone.